exciting.
The final exam. Well, how have you guys been today?
So good. It's nice and sunny, which I appreciate.
How are you guys?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, it's been a really nice week for us, and we're really excited to resume our dialogue on follow up what we talked about last time and see if we can work out a mutually beneficial agreement for both of us.
Cool, cool.
I'll start by just asking where you guys are at in terms of what you guys are looking for. What will be like a good outcome for you guys?
Yeah, so our highest priorities are just making sure that we're a good fit. As far as
Like company culture.
yeah, company culture.
Yeah, and integrating.
So I think the biggest priority for us is the ability to be autonomous.
Okay.
Just because we care a lot about our staff and we want to make sure that they're treated the way that they need to be, and we know that our cultures differ a little bit as far as like company management. So we just wanted to ask you guys like what your priorities are in this acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Like first, why are you wanting to acquire? And then also like what are your top priorities and what this should look like for you?
So, in terms of like why we wanted to buy you guys, well, we do have a couple options on the table that we're looking into. Mainly, we want to be able to utilize your robotics techniques, and we realize you guys aren't fully specialized with robotics, but we want to be able to incorporate more robotics into our
business,
delivery. Yeah.
Because we in the restaurant business, you know, that's something that could help us run our business a lot more efficiently. And you guys have a good reputation. That's why we want to work with you.
Okay, so essentially you want to acquire us so you can use our robotic technology in your restaurant
Exactly.
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And so, just a question off the top of my head was, so what does autonomous control mean to you guys? Because you mentioned that you didn't like, or you wanted more control of the company. What does that like look like?
So basically what we mean by autonomous is that we want to like still maintain a lot of the control we currently have over how we do our operations and how we operate with our robots and things around that type of like area. And so we want that, and also just to remind you too, we also have a focus on sustainability as well as we mentioned in our previous meeting. And so that is like our next priority, but yes, autonomy is at the top, and we would love to like keep that. And like in terms of like what autonomy wouldn't be, it would be like something where it's like we would be integrating with you guys, and like you guys would be like kind of like changing our our processes and whatnot.
It's also on a personnel basis. It's like we want to be able to hire who we want to hire and promote who we want to promote and manage how many days we have off, company culture, things like that. Just because we think that the success of our business has been largely driven by how our company culture has operated and how our personal decisions have operated, especially since we're a Japanese company and our workers are Japanese. They expect a lot of things in that way.
That's fair.
And so that's why we wanted to like help maintain that, because we don't want to change expectations for them and it be unfair to our workers.
And if I could add on to that, just to be a little bit more specific about the culture thing, so it's just so we're on the same page as to like how we would fit in with you guys. The Japanese culture had like our employees, they're very like work driven and like they're very hard workers. They normally it's very different from like the American or other type of economies where we find satisfaction in like doing hard work and doing it often and doing as much as possible and getting things done. And so that like some things that I don't know, processes or like requirements that you guys may have for workers here might not work well as with us. So that's why we were also talking about autonomy, because we want to maintain that level of culture and not like displace or culture shock our employees.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's when it makes sense. And like if we were in your guys' position, we feel the same way. We want to take care of the employees for sure. I'm sure you guys also can understand that performance is an extremely high priority for us. And so I think we'd be willing to talk about, you know, letting you guys maintain the Japanese workforce culture, as long as you guys agree to be monitored by us in terms of performance targets. That is something that we feel very strongly about. It's just that we are a meritocracy, right? I mean, Japan is also a meritocracy, just there are some cultural differences, and we want the main drivers of growth to be based on merit and not necessarily not implying, like, my family's from China, and a lot of times in China, we drive things based on connections or who you know. We would want a very clear performance expectations for the team, and as long as they're able to meet those expectations, I think we'd be fine with you guys keeping the culture, and you guys can be fully delegated that responsibility.
Okay, can you be more specific on what kind of performance indicators you're looking for, and then what it would look like as far as like enforcing those?
So in terms of, it would be more of like a merit-based system of performance, if that makes sense. So we kind of understand you guys have kind of a promote based off of length of service. And one of the only key changes that we're required to make by our higher ups, right, would be that it's less based off of the length of time and more based off of pure merit and performance, if that makes sense. So raises would be merit-based instead of length of time or service connected with that.
Okay, so my top concern with hearing that, which I think that we could find a way to work this out.
Okay.
But my top concern is in especially Japanese culture and our employees, they expect once they start working at a company, they're gonna work there for their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they work really, really hard to be the top performers, but also that's why they're the ones that are promoted, because they're the top performers, they have the most experience, and also that's just what they culturally expect. I don't see this as a huge issue, because while you guys want to promote off of merit, while we want to promote off of length and time at the company, I see it as pretty similar. Because the people who have been there longer generally are also the top performers, because we invest in training our employees so they can be the top performers.
Yeah.
I just don't know how we would find like contractually middle ground with that. Like if you guys are like strictly merit based, what if someone comes in 6 months in and they had better training from somewhere else, and so we promote them over someone else instead of helping to share that training so everyone has those skills, right? So how would we like delineate that contractually instead of just like hoping that that's what works out?
That's a great question.
So I think, I don't think a lot of it has to be written down, the reason being that these are some social expectations, of course. And like if someone really did turn out to not be a good fit, right, then there's other measures we can take to either help train them or maybe help them find a better opportunity at a different company. I'm sure they would feel the same way, right?
Right, so maybe, okay, what I'm thinking is maybe instead of, if you've been here for 5 years and someone else has been here for 2 years and they're performing better than you, so we're gonna promote them. Maybe it's if you've been here for 5 years and they've been here for 2 years and they're performing better, maybe we like put you through a training system and see how you perform within 6 months, and then like kind of go off of that, so that way it's a merit and time base at the company. So that way we're not like influencing, like we're not offending any of our workers or employees, but we're also still like encouraging the high performance.
I think so. I think as long as we're able to as we talked about, our main priority is to reduce any inefficiencies that are there. And so if we were able to say, maybe, I don't know, like a little bit shorter timeline, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months, and if they were able to then match or exceed those, then I think that would be fine.
Okay.
That's reasonable. Yeah, that way it gives the opportunity to share expertise. And if it turns out just meritocratically, if one person is a better performer than others, even after 6 months or 4 months, we can talk about that as well. We can finalize those details. Then I think it would make sense at that point to give a more responsibility to the person who's better at their job.
Okay, cool. What do you think?
I think that's all great. I think I also want to discuss a little bit about sustainability as well. How do you guys see yours, us, if we were to integrate with you guys? How do you see us in the future regarding the sustainability principles we have right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we definitely do care about sustainability. It's extremely important. And I'm sure you guys also understand that we also want to improve our supply chain operations. And so what we have in mind is we can identify, so if rather than just focusing on sustainability that has no impact on the business, from a supply chain perspective, if we can find opportunities to improve sustainability while being also strategically like beneficial towards like operations. So we can combine both like efficiency and effectiveness with sustainability, then we think that'd be more optimal than if we're just kind of spending a lot of resource on sustainability and then getting no return.
So just for clarity, you're talking about like you're making things more sustainable for you guys instead of going full sustainability if we were to integrate. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, more of that, we do value sustainability, but we don't want to overvalue it, if that makes sense. And so that it's basically eating into a lot of it's basically taking away some of the streamlining things and making things easier and more, like, if that makes sense. That's basically what our higher ups have said, is basically that we want to commit to growth and streamlining our operations. So ensuring that,
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like we have similar views on that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we obviously, we operate at the highest level of efficiency possible while
Mhm.
still focusing on using green energy and green
Yeah.
products.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a trade-off for efficiency, it's more a trade-off in cost.
Mm-hmm.
So we just wanna make sure that if we are acquired, that our products still have the same commitment to using green energy, green
Yeah.
products, even though it might be a slightly higher cost, but it won't sacrifice anything in terms of efficiency or operations.
Yes, and we just want to place the caveat that that'll be like, we are on board with that. Obviously, we have to run it by our higher ups. Optimally, those sustainability practices will also contribute to the company's long-term growth, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it's not just that we're sacrificing a part of our profits to be sustainable, is that we're finding strategically the areas where we can be impactful in sustainability that is also beneficial to our company's long-term strategic growth.
So if we were able to maybe look for other ways that we could be more sustainable and also saving, like, the streamlining those operations and making sure that supply chain is like unaffected by that,
What do you
that
mean
could,
by that?
like, I don't know,
Like, what
maybe
do
a
you-
long-term commitment to sustainability instead of more short-term. Does that make sense? So more gradually over time, committing to more sustainable things in terms of less short-term.
So what would you change about our supply chain if you were to acquire us, is pretty much just what I wanna know. Cause we already source from specific people, we already have like green energy and
Yeah.
everything like that in all of our processes.
Yeah.
So would you just leave it how it is and let it function the way that it is, or would you change that?
So actually, yeah, that's a really good question. This is a really good way for us to clarify. We also support green initiatives.
Oh, cool.
Is that with surging demand, like for example, if the supply for the green initiatives run out,
Mm-hmm.
we want to prioritize meeting on the customer's demand. So
Okay,
if you are able to meet the surging demand and produce those products efficiently with those green initiatives, then we're 100% on board. If for some reason, maybe, let's say if you guys were in a situation where you don't have enough supplies, or for some reason we aren't, you're not able to produce enough
mm-hmm.
to meet the customer's demand, then we would have to find other ways to meet the demand of the customers.
I think that's reasonable too,
Yeah.
because one of our biggest driving factors into coming into this acquisition is also because we want to scale to meet demand as
Mhm.
well, but we also want to do that with a sustainability focus.
Yeah.
So I think we're aligned there.
As long as we can't, as long as
Yeah.
we don't compromise, I mean, if that, too much, if that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah, as
it's
long as
not-
we're meeting
yeah.
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're under the same circumstances we would be in if we were to face that problem as well, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have no problem supporting, as
So
long as
that
we're
can be-
all committed to producing enough to meet the customer's demands.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're all committed to that, we are on board with the sustainability practices.
Okay, I did want to clarify another thing switching tacks, going back to autonomous control. We talked about like promotions based off of merit performance versus length and time at the company.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure what the management structure is going to look like. Like, will we be fully autonomous to be able to make all the staffing decisions? Or is that something that we have to like get approval for, or what would that look like? for you guys?
So I don't think we were briefed on that, like
Um,
super transparently. So I think
So-
that's something that could be negotiated with our higher ups
Yeah,
maybe.
the main thing was that, through this acquisition, all employees that are currently robotics would become delivered employees.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they would be expected to adhere to our personnel management standard practices. Does that make sense? But
So would that be
you-
like enforced time off, things
Yeah.
like that?
I believe so.
Go into depth of that.
So you'd be completely autonomous to manage the robotics design, building, and distribution of everything. But we would just be in charge of the personnel management standards, and that would be back to the merit-based system. Let me just make
I
some-
think that's the biggest point on which we differ.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it sounds like we were giving up total control of our employees at that point,
Yeah,
and that's going to be it's not going to be detrimental to us, but it's also going to be detrimental to you guys, because as we explained before, the way that our employees work and around like the Japanese culture is not going to work out if they had to shift like suddenly all the way to working in a different like economy or industry. And so like that's why if we were to do that, the employees would be under so much stress it wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
so what would be your purpose behind, switching the employees to a delivered personnel management structure?
Let's see. Well, I guess the biggest component of that would just be like the executive decisions. So in terms of, I think we're fine in terms of promotions, like as long as the performance expectations are being met, I think it would totally make sense for you guys to like
Yeah.
keep control of like certain ways of management, but ultimately I think,
So I think in terms of like what we could compromise on, I think would be, so vacation and sick days, so we'd be able to provide those. So that's 5 personal days per year.
for example, like our employees are required to take 5 personal days per year,
Mm-hmm.
just for like mental health reasons and work-life balance reasons.
And we realize that's not really prioritized among the Japanese culture, but we feel like if they were to take that a little bit more, they'd be more productive long run.
Okay, so let me switch tacks a little bit. We
Yes.
heard that you guys recently acquired a company, where you did make all of these personnel changes. How did that go for you?
Yeah. It's good, we haven't heard any problems, so.
I think
Yeah.
we are unfamiliar with our current, any other product, like mergers that we know of. Apparently the higher ups haven't really told us
No,
much about those things. What
no,
did
they-
it say, about that you heard about? What did you hear?
We just heard that you recently acquired a smaller tech company, and much of the staff was laid off. And then you guys really rearranged their company structure and didn't really maintain like what they wanted to do necessarily.
Yeah, and we kind of want to know how that's going to play into if we integrate with you guys. Like, what's the differences between those two things, and will we be the same?
Yeah.
Well, since we're very familiar with like the reputation of your company, and also we have a lot of faith in the work ethic of the Japanese employees, obviously. Productivity is not necessarily a concern for us. It would be more of a like just standardized company practice. But I'm sure, but honestly, from my perspective, I think it would make sense. Like I think the cost of just totally changing all the employees' expectations and like their culture, their work life culture, that would be pretty difficult, and I don't know how effective it will be. So why don't we? So I think what we can do is we'll give our manager a call, and or I'll hire up a call and tell them what you've said, and we'll tell them that you hope to be able to maintain a Japanese culture in your workforce. So
I think it's also not just maintaining the culture, but also we just really want to maintain that control. over like the staffing decisions and things like that. I think there's obviously middle ground to be found between like how many vacation days, how many sick days and things like that, so we align closer with your company culture. But your highest driver is high performance, right? That's like ultimately your goal. And that's like part of our goal is for our company as well, is we know that we're high performing, and part of why we're high performing is because of how we manage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think,
I understand
It's beneficial.
wanting to align with the rest of your company, but if you're willing to have wiggle room there of kind of letting us do our thing as a subsidiary, that would help us function and be the highest performing possible. That way we both get what, like we're both aligned in our priorities.
So, I'm trying to, so basically, we would have you run, like the personnel options. I'm not sure, like, we could get approval for that, just because it says we have a lot of experience with managing personnel.
Yeah. how about, as long as, if we're able to agree on the other terms, we can get permission from our higher ups on that. If they're okay with it, then we can move forward, assuming we agree on other terms. If not, then that's okay, we can part ways as friends, and, you guys can maybe find a company that can be a better cultural fit.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible. I feel like there are a lot of things that we do align on, which would be great. So if it's a situation where, I just wanna see like what other creative solutions we can come to this, especially since you'll be having to take it to a manager of some sort. We only had 9 minutes, that's counting down, right?
We're good, we got 4 more minutes,
We have 3 more minutes.
according to the time.
Oh, we have 3 more minutes for the whole thing?
Yes.
What the heck?
Okay, so let's get going.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, yeah, okay, well.
So, we'll
it says ensuring that personnel are evaluated based off merit is the only way to run a company efficiently and effectively, but, we don't expect that we would oversee the day-to-day oversight of all hiring and firing, but we would just expect that you adhere to those standards.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
So I think we can align on the standards of what you guys want of high performance, merit based, while also integrating that with what we already talked about by our like time in service at our company, and make sure we have high performance. And we can just be transparent in our reporting with you, and we can just have like regular meetups of like about the faculty and personnel to see if we need to make differences. But I think we align in that.
Okay.
Right,
that's
that
good.
we can still manage
Yeah.
it, but we'll just report, be transparent, and still implement the metrics that you guys see as, okay,
Yeah.
important.
Cool.
Great, we're good on sustainability, yeah?
That line right there,
Yeah.
that was the
We just wanna
key.
make sure you guys are also wanting to expand to other markets, right?
Oh yeah, that's one of our key,
So one thing that we
Priorities
thought
as
of,
well.
just, since we know you guys, we're all a little bit of a time crunch, we have a lot of expertise helping companies like yours expand into other markets. So because we are able to, so we would expect that once we have that relationship with you guys, we would also have a consultative role and help you guys expand into other markets and helping you guys maximize your profits there. So with that in mind, what are you guys expecting in terms of a buyout price?
that's a really good question. We think a very fair price. I don't know, do you wanna say it? Do you wanna lead this part?
I don't know, I feel like we wouldn't be able to talk about that just yet until you guys receive clarification from the higher ups about the autonomy. I don't think it's very important to us that we have a very clear view on that, and so.
Yeah, so like, I think
We came to a resolution, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we'll be in control, we'll just have the same metrics.
Yeah.
So you'll have day-to-day oversight of all robotics hiring and firing, but
I think it would be
just
around.
adhere to our workforce management standards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a fair price would be around like 43 million mark.
Gotcha.
And what do you base that off of?
Our fair valuation in the market is 45 million. So I think 45 would be our asking price, on the low side. That would be the low side of our asking price.
According to our valuation, which I don't know how we differ in that, would be around 35 million, which.
Yeah, is there a specific aspect you think that We're open to discussing if our financial team missed anything, but our financial team developed.
We'd also be able to invest more money further later on in like further initiatives to make like your robotics team better,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So just the acquisition price of 35 is what you're valued at right now, and then further later we'd be willing to invest further in
Or
ramping up
we're gonna
supply.
approach, because we're looking at revenue targets in the millions. Long term, our goal is to help each other grow.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can, if you mentioned that, if we can do the asking price of 35 million, we're willing to offer our consultant services for you guys as partners free of charge, to help you guys scale annually.
Okay.
And that result should eventually compound upon itself after a certain number of years, and we will make the initial investment worth it, and that would also make this negotiation go a lot easier as well.
Okay, what I don't know, do we keep going? Cause we
We
already
can
hit
keep going.
25.
Yeah.
Okay, what principles is your 43 million based off of, or the 35 million evaluation based off of?
So our information says that,
I think it was based off of that you guys don't fully have like complete understanding of the robotics field, so we'd have to invest a lot of money into building that up more with engineers and personnel.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I just disagree a little bit because we do have another offer for 43 million
you do?
from a tech company similar to you. So I'm not sure how there's that difference in valuation of our assets and knowledge. And they're also
Well-
a Japanese tech company, so we would have the same cultural expectations
Yeah,
and
we
things
have
like
to make
that
all the
as well.
sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yeah, a caveat to that though is because if you guys want the expertise of expanding to global markets, then we would definitely be a better choice. Obviously, I understand you guys are trying to save as much money as you can for your company, right, as we are. But on a long-term perspective, we're very confident that a global market such as ours, that's American, will be able to help you strategize breaking into new markets much more effectively than one that's just Japanese owned.
Yeah, but we can go with the Japanese company, and then later on down the road, we could look into going to international markets maybe later on.
I mean,
Sure.
we do.
Yeah, that's true.
We do want to grow, like we do want to expand into the market, and that's definitely true. And I appreciate the consulting services in the future. I just want to make sure that our offer is fair based off of what we have to offer.
Yeah.
Which, according to like the market research that we've done, and also offers that we've gotten from other companies, that's why we think that our number figure is fair. So I just want to make sure that we're aligned in that, and it seems like we're not.
Yeah, so because since a Japanese company wouldn't be able to immediately offer you the help in expansion into new markets, I think that's something that we think could be of value to you guys, and that's something that can lower the initial price.
What other, like, let's say we like went up above our 35 and we hit like 40. Like what other value could we give you that would bring it there?
What other value could you give us?
Yeah.
Like you mean value to add to, if you were to only offer us 40 million?
Would that be plus like the additional consulting services in the future and market expansion and everything else that we talked about?
Yep.
Yeah, and keep in mind we do also have to spend costs kind of integrating the differences in
Personnel
and things like that.
Any changes that would need it, and I mean, obviously you guys would control some of that, but we would bear the cost
Oversee the
of it,
costs, we bear the cost of it as well.
of any new hires when we're expanding, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just read this sentence.
Okay, but, 1 second.
You're good. You guys are good.
I don't know.
I don't know.
What if-
Currently,
what
we
if
do have another option
what if
also
we
on the
meet-
table.
What if we can discuss this at maybe another time, like later on after we've had some time to think about it, and you guys have talked to the higher ups and we've received a little more clarity on this issue?
Yeah, why don't you guys can clarify your higher ups as well in terms of, we do have
I
another
mean,
offer.
we are the higher ups, we don't have higher ups.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
We do have another company that we can, that would perform a similar service that we could purchase for about 30 million.
So why would you want us then?
Primarily your robotics capabilities, if that makes
Alright.
sense. Winged is more of the other company, it's more of a like drone service, which we could use, but we feel like with that their culture is it would be harder to convert, or their personnel would be harder to convert over into our employees, just because there's more of a stark difference between them and us than you guys and us, if that makes
Got it.
sense.
So we are saving you that cost, since
Mhm.
we're taking over that for you.
Mhm.
So we have a higher valuation because of what we offer, as well as a higher valuation because we're saving you that cost of personal management, right?
Mhm.
And then also the specific robotics that we offer are like one of a kind. Nobody else does them as far as the fridges and how they make food, the robot fridge food things, right?
What if we do this? What if we can do based on market research, our asking price is 35 million. We could invest, because you said you got another offer from a different company for 43 million, is that right? What if we invest the difference of the $8 million in your guys' growth globally? So what we could do is we can buy the company for 35 million, and then we'll start $8 million investment, and we would have a slight sharing equity to help you guys expand into the US and the Western markets. And so rather than just a super short-term asking price, it would be like that difference could be made up in like a long-term strategic
Okay.
growth aspect.
I like that idea. What if we meet in the middle with what Nick was saying earlier, 40, but we invest the 3 million into growth? Cause we think 40 is
Okay.
like closer to our valuation.
That sounds good, yeah.
And then we can invest the 3 into market growth.
Yeah, so it's $40 million, and then $3 million into market growth
Yeah.
and globalization
Yeah.
as partners. Okay.
I think that's
Cool.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, go team! You're
Nice.
gonna watch the last 13 minutes, but it's fine.